Hello, hello, and welcome to Odds on Serie A. It's Matchday 35. We have plenty of action with teams in the bottom half facing each other to avoid the relegation places or to lift themselves from them. We have a great Roma Juventus as well at the Olimpico. We have Inter chasing 101 points. Why not? But to help us analyze all matches and to share with us his best tips, we have Daniele Fisichella. How are you, Dani?
Ciao Leo, all good. Thanks. Wearing my vintage Inter shirt, found it in a
Beautiful.
wardrobe of 1994. Still fits me. I don't know how, but it still fits me. So yes, Inter are champions, chasing the record points for them. Salernitana are in Serie B officially. Bologna gonna play in Europe after 22 years. Will it be Champions League? Will it be Europa League? And there's a lot to be decided in the top four finish, in the fight over regulation. So yeah, we got a lot to look forward to.
Before we get going with the show, guys, if you haven't done it yet, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. Now, let's go with the show. Okay, Dani, our first one Friday night in Torino, Bologna. The draw against Udinese at home for Bologna, it felt really like a missed opportunity for them. I know it's true that they were that they managed the point while being reduced to 10 men because Beukema was sent off after 64 minutes. But I don't know if your view goes this way or you will tell me, Danny, but I had the feeling as well that this draw goes in hand with some little inconsistency of Thiago Motta's team lately, because since the defeat with Inter, we see 3 wins and 3 draws. This draw with Udinese, but also drawing with Frosinone, one of those games. I want to see how they manage till the end of the season emotionally, Bologna's players, the possibility and the nerves of sensing a big opportunity. Yes, Europe is guaranteed, but Champions League is a different matter. So despite Torino being tense in the table, I believe that the odds parity we have here are kind of like an accurate picture. What's your view?
Totally agree with you. Both odds, same odds for a home win, 294, away win, 296. And normally when it's like this, it's a good suggestion, it's a good tip to go for the draw, which is exactly with my pick, by the way, draw at 305. But yes, Bologna have slowed down a bit, although they've only lost to 13 and was against Inter. But yeah, the last 2 home games, 2 draws against Monza and Udinese. For many teams, that would be a cause of concern, but probably for Bologna is not, considering how well they played and the position they are, which nobody expected at the beginning of the year. Of course, they want to finish into the top 4, but if you look at the attacking numbers for Bologna, they're not as good as the other teams. They only got the 8th attack of Serie A. They will be playing in Europe for sure after 22 years. The problem I got with Bologna and Torino is that they play well most of the time, most of the games. They don't score enough goals. They don't have that cutting edge there. Although Salemakersa scored 3 goals in April, only Çalhanoğlu scored more than him in the calendar month. When you look at Torino, last 7 home games, all under 2.5 goals. They're very hard to beat at home. They only lost twice, Torino, to Lazio and Inter. But same could be said for Bologna. They're unbeaten in 6 away games. And recently they scored 2 goals or more against Lazio, Milan, Atalanta, Roma, winning 3 out of 4 of those games. Only lost 1 game since mid-February. We said that game against Inter. Can they break Torino down? Torino kept 12 home clean sheet. They got the second worst home attack, only 15 goals scored. 5 of the last 7 for Bologna have been under 2.5 goals. If it's a Bologna win, it's probably be 1-0. And also another note, this is going to be a very emotionally important game for Torino. They're gonna remember the air disaster of the 75th anniversary when the great Torino lost their life in 1949. So there's gonna be a lot of celebration there, probably an extra motivation if needed, just to put a top performance. But I go for draw here, 305. I mean, as a top tip, when the odds are the same for home and away win, do not discard the draw. I know a lot of people don't like to play the draw, but it is one of the 3 possible outcomes, and the odds are very, very high.
And you mentioned if there is a win, which I agree with the draw here, Danny, it's going to be a low goal affair. So in the goals market, goals under 2, we have 1.9. Those are the odds. That is then Torino, Bologna. We move on Saturday to start with Monza, Lazio. Danny, for Monza, Matchday 34. The match against Lecce. Lecce should have started in the 90th minute because
Yes.
all the action started there. No, 90 at the 92nd minute of the game, Lecce's goal. Then Monza equalized on the 96th. The draw means Monza is winless. Sorry, in the last 5 anyway, with 3 defeats. But prior to that, they won 4 out of 5, and at home they show 3 defeats in the last 4, conceding 10 times. This irregularity is kind of the story of the season for them, but it paid off because they are 11th with 44 points.
Yeah.
For Lazio, losing the derby since losing the derby with Roma, Dani, 3 consecutive wins, or 4 if we count the 2-1 against Juventus, but okay, they didn't manage to get to the final despite winning that game. The reverse fixture ended in a draw. Monza, I believe Dani will sign that again without a problem.
Definitely.
But Lazio cannot anything else other than a win if they want to make it to European spot. If you want to take one European spot out from Roma or for Atalanta, a win is a must for them.
It's not impossible for Lazio to qualify for the Champions League. Only 4 points away from Roma. They need to believe they can do it. I don't think they will be able to, but if they will, that will be a massive achievement for Tudor. And with Lazio, they are repeating the same trajectory as last year after being knocked out of Europe. Last season, after they crashed out of the Conference League, they won 10 out of the last 12 games. And now they won 5 of the last 6. In the last 6 games, they got 15 points in the table, 1 more than leaders Inter. They are getting a little bit more intense, the pressing higher at the pitch. You can tell that the change of manager has benefited. It's not quite Tudor's team. I think in the summer there are going to be a lot of changes, but surely he's getting the most out of a group of players that probably, they are getting towards the end of the career, the tail end of the career, the likes of Anderson, Immobile, etc. But 14 goals over the last 2 seasons for Zaccagni. That was enough to beat Verona. 7 assists, at least 7 assists for the 3rd consecutive season for Luis Alberto in Serie A. His numbers are really, really good. And now in Monza, who are in the worst streak of the season. They've never been 5 games without a win. At home, lost 3 of the last 4, all against top sides. They lost against Napoli, they lost against Roma, lost against Inter, but they've scored at home in 7 of the last 8. Now, Lazio, no away draws in the last 9 games. They are the team drawn the least games away from home. Only 1 away draw for Lazio, 1-1 at Verona. Could it be another draw here? Possibly. I fancy the both teams to score here. 186 for both Monza and Lazio to go on the score sheet.
Perfect. That is Monza, Lazio. Next one, Dani, is the reigning champions, because it's Inter visiting Sassuolo. For Sassuolo, very damaging 5-1 defeat against Fiorentina last Matchday. They are 5 points from safety. They have conceded 13 goals in the last 4 matches. Of course, it's not something new. Salernitana, which has already been relegated, you mentioned at the beginning of the show, and has 11 points less, has conceded 73. So with these numbers, Sassuolo, it's a miracle that they managed not to follow Salernitana yet. So far, Inter, after clinching the title against Milan, there was not relaxation for them. 2-0 win against Torino on Matchday 34. Now the challenge, we said, is to get to those record points, 101 points. If they get to win all the points till the end of the season, Inter to win is not high value, 1.55, but Inter to win 2-0 is 2.9, which I'm a bit surprised. So being Sassuolo, that usually at least they manage to score, that's what takes the odds a little bit higher here for Inter to win 2-0.
Sassuolo have got the 2nd worst defense in Serie A. Now, in the history of Serie A, if you concede more than 70 goals, you normally go down. Last season, Sampdoria conceded 71 goals and finished bottom. However, in the last 3 seasons, Salernitana and Spezia twice conceded more than 70 goals and still got saved. So it's not impossible. But Sassuolo do need at least 9 points from the next 4 games to be saved. So they need to do much better than they were done so far. This we're talking about a team that only kept 2 clean sheets at in the season, and both clean sheets, both 1-0 win against Frosinone and Fiorentina. Frosinone and Fiorentina miss a penalty in those games. They conceded Sassuolo 15 in the last 6, and by the way, they're the only side able to beat Inter this year in the league, which is extraordinary. Back in September, they won 2-1 with a goal, of course, from Berardi. What is keeping Sassuolo afloat and alive is the fact they got the 11th Serie A attack, and you're right, they do normally score, but even with the change of manager of Ballardini, it seems that things have started to go in a certain direction, a lot of under 2.5 goals. But recently, 3-3 against Milan, they squandered a 3-1 lead. 2-2 against Salernitana, they were leading 2-0, and then in Florence, 5-1 defeat. And I think that really is the white flag for them. When it comes to Inter, there are 2 records on the line. The record of points for them, which is now currently stands at 97. So if they go to 100, 101, they will beat the record. And the record of clean sheets. They just need 1 sheet in the season to equal Lazio last year record and Juventus from 6-7 years ago of 21 clean sheets, but they can actually go even further than that. Can they win as Sassuolo? Well, of course they can. They are unbeaten away from home. Away from home, they only conceded 8 goals, 8 less than Juve, who got the second best defense away from home. So really, the gulf is enormous. And they average more points away than at San Siro. They won the last 7. If you want to look for a player, Lautaro Martinez hasn't scored in the league since the end of February. So he's desperate for a goal. If you saw him play against Torino, he tried to score in every possible way. And I do hope he scores. He's a top goal scorer, of course, in Serie A. Record against Sassuolo, 5 goals already. He has scored against Sassuolo in the previous 4 seasons, but not in this one. So I think he's due a goal. And yeah, I think that could be a good one. Probably it's odds on to score. I go for half-time, full-time Inter. Win at half-time and win at full-time, 238.
And you mentioned Sassuolo needs to get at least 9 out of 12, so they're going to throw all the punches they can, Danny. So even both teams to score, I know it's, you mentioned all those clean sheets from Inter or how little they have conceded 8 goals away all season is amazing. But still, both teams to score is not amazing value, but still 1.70 on average on Oddspeedia's website. That is for Sassuolo Inter. We now have Cagliari Lecce, crucial match to avoid relegation, Danny. It's very congested at the bottom because, if I'm not wrong, 6 teams separated by 7 points. Yep. Lecce, the one with more breathing distance. Actually, if they could have held that lead for a few more minutes against Monza, they could have been now on 38 points. And the Serie A spot for next season almost secure for them, Danny. Only wins away in the season have been against Salernitana and Sassuolo for them. So why not to do it against Cagliari as well? Cagliari, after beating Atalanta and drawing with Juventus and Inter, Matchday 34 was a shock of reality maybe for them, no? 3-0 defeat away to Genoa. What's your view here, Danny?
Against Genoa, they didn't even look. They were trying, Cagliari, to be fair. Their away form has been so poor. Probably they know that, with the next couple of home games, they could be home and dry. But it has to be said that Lecce, in the last 6 games since Gotti replaced D'Aversa, have collected 11 points. So in the last 6 games, Lecce will be 4th in the table, same points as Milan and Roma. It's the story of, the teams that pick at the right time. When they hit the form at the right time, they can get themselves out of trouble. But in the last 6 games, Lecce have only scored 6 times. So each goal has been worth 1.83 points, which is an amazing story. If you think they scored 3 against Sassuolo in their away win. So be careful with going with a Lecce win here, because Cagliari have already won 6 times at home, which is a record for them in the last few seasons. 24 points at the Sardinia Arena, same as Genoa, Lecce and Napoli, so a very respectable tally. But what strikes me of Cagliari, it is a team that has never won 1-0, apart from the 1-0 away win against Empoli. So they're very strong at home, but they never won 1-0. And eventually, these things are going to catch up with you. You need to be able to win 1-0 at home or 2-0 at home in a easy game, if you like. So is it going to be the case of a low scoring win for Cagliari? Not sure, but the lead they got on Udinese is healthy, plus 3 points. Udinese plays on Monday, so really a win here for Cagliari will put enormous pressure on Udinese and Cannavaro. Lecce plus 7 on Udinese. A draw makes everyone happy, normally. Lecce scoring 3 of the last 4 away games. I think Cagliari win it, but I can't see Cagliari keeping a clean sheet. Both teams to score here, 97.
Yes, and because you said no, and it's true, Danny, that the draw makes them both happy as well. Apart from that tip you mentioned, both teams to score here. Double chance Lecce, show odds of 1.75 as well to have in mind. Next, Danny, to move on the round of fixture, we have Empoli, Frosinone, another 6-pointer at the bottom of the table. They are both on 31 points, 2 above the red zone, but with Frosinone having a better goal difference. Frosinone on Matchday 34, Danny finally managed to get back to winning ways after 12 matches. It had to be, of course, against Salernitana. Otherwise, when that win would have come, I don't know. But that's the beauty of having a very good first semester, because you can be without a win since January and still be out of relegation zone. That's what happened to Frosinone. For Empoli, the one with Atalanta away was their 6th defeat in the last 8. But the last 2 times at home, those were wins. And this could be, for sure, the most important one of the 3, if they can do it.
If they can do it, yes, they'll drag themselves out of the relegation zone, and they will increase definitely the lead on Udinese and Sassuolo. Frosinone, I think recently they've been better defensively. They worked more on the defensive sides. They've been more focused. Back-to-back clean sheets, something that only happened the second time since 2018. Against Salernitana, they started really well in the first half. After 25 minutes, they were 2-0 up. So they really took it very, very seriously. Although in the end, they conceded a couple of chances, 3-0, maybe a little bit generous for the home side. They're unbeaten in 5, Frosinone. Only lost 2 of the last 8 games. The last 3, all draws against Genoa, Napoli, and Torino. So not easy games really for Frosinone. I've got the 3rd worst defense in Serie A. Still tough for Frosinone to be safe, because the next game is at home against Inter, and then they got in the last game of the season Udinese at home, which probably is going to be the decider. But Frosinone is a tie that normally tend to score away from home against the lower league sides. In 4 out of 6 occasions against teams struggling, they have found the net. Empoli, on the other hand, only 13 goals scored at home, 16 points collected, so a massive return on investment, if you like. Every goal is worth 1.2 points. If just to give you a comparison, Sassuolo at home have scored 9 times more than Empoli. They got 1 more point in the home table. So really, it's about keeping it tight. It's about managing it and shutting down the opportunities for the opposition, like they did against Napoli. Napoli wasn't really threatening in the last game against Empoli. The 5 games recently for Empoli with 1 goal or less at home against teams in the bottom half of the table. So normally in those games against stragglers, there aren't many goals. I'm going to go for the under 2.7, 177, which is an Asian line, by the way. So if there are 3 goals in the game, you lose half a stake. Only 2 goals, you do win the full stake.
And also, Danny, I had the feeling that it could be like a cagey start of the match. I don't know if you see it similarly, because I'm pointing to that because the first half draw is odds of 2.25, thinking that I can't see them like throwing punches from the very beginning in these two.
Absolutely. And with Davide Nicola on the bench, Empoli have improved. They will switch to a back 3. It suits them more. And a couple of years ago, Davide Nicola managed to save Salernitana, which were doomed. And he did that by drawing an awful lot of games. They drew themselves out of relegation. So it's not impossible here to get a draw as well. Empoli, let's face it, they don't have great goal scorers in their ranks.
Now the turn then is for Verona, Fiorentina. Verona, another team on 31 points, but with better goal difference than Empoli and then Frosinone. With Lazio ended 1-0 defeat, but they had their chances. Widerski had one with the game 0-0. Henry at the end could have scored and make it 1-1 as well. For Verona, 5 of the 7 wins all season have come at home. In the entire season at home, anyway, Verona did not score only in 1 match. So basically, at home they will score, and the only time they did not score at home, that was back in September and against Bologna. And when I think about Fiorentina, Danny, I always think that they can score, that it's a team that can score, and they can hurt you as well on set pieces. Taking this into account, that Verona at home, at least they will score one, or that's what they've been showing so far all season, that Fiorentina can easily as well do it. I can't imagine a goal feast, not at all. I'm not saying that, but is both teams to score a market that you will be pointing
Totally.
at least?
Totally. At 191, that's exactly what I'm going. Both teams to score. Slight advantage, I think, for the home side because of your playing in Europe in the Conference League tonight. And you can check the video, which we've done, of course, with you and Alvaro against Bruges. And next week, return in Belgium. Conference League is the objective number one for Fiorentina. And it's a Fiorentina, it's very inconsistent, at least in 2024. They only won back-to-back games for the first time now in Serie A. But of course, the last two games against Sassuolo and Salernitana, Italiano made a lot of changes, a lot of turnover, as he should have done, and still they got the win. But they were playing Salernitana and Sassuolo, the bottom two teams of the league. Verona is a different proposition, and I think with more changes, this Fiorentina can only be unsettled and upset. Although, of course, there are some players that are coming into form. 9th goal of the season for Nico Gonzalez, personal record. 8th goal for Martinez Quarta. Only Frimpong and Grimaldo scored more among defenders in the top 5 competition in Europe. So, of course, they do have sources of goal. But Verona, although they've slowed down a bit, only 5 points in the last 6, still got plus 2 points on Udinese. They never get trashed. This season are a team that is very, very competitive. And against Lazio was the first time they failed to score in the last 8 games. Fiorentina never back-to-back away games from home and failed to score 7 times away from home. Will they nick a goal? Probably yes, but I do fancy Verona here to get at least a point, if not 3. Both to score, 191.
Amazing, Danny. That leaves us to move to Milan and Genoa. The question for Milan is a question of motivation, I believe, Danny, because they are 11 points above the 5th place with 12 points to play. In the meantime, the conversation around Pioli or who's going to sit in Milan's bench next season, it seems like it never ceases to exist. I remember last time we have done a Serie A show together a couple of months ago, and Pioli was already on the line, or Pioli was already a topic to be debating in Milan. In the end, he's finishing the season, but the noise around the successor is still there. The last one being Julian Lopetegui. I think even was on the cover of La Gazzetta dello Sport these last few days. In this context, the draw 0-0 with the Juve, and they drew 0-0, but they have. I mean, Juve could have won that game. They had the better chances. They are now 5 games without a win. And Genoa, they guarantee their safety in Serie A with a 3-0 win over Cagliari. So what to look at here, Danny?
Is to look at that Genoa have got a great chance here to get at least a point from San Siro, and the odds for a Milan win are way too low for the way the team is playing. By the way, Lopetegui won't be the new manager after the petition signed by thousands of Milan fans. No Petegui, apparently the breakthrough. So they're looking for another manager, which I find it very, very funny, to be fair. But at the end of the day, if Milan can't attract big players or top players, why not keeping Pioli? He's done a decent job so far this season. At some point, Milan were doing well. The new signings from last season, not everyone worked, but the young players, they can improve. The second season could be a difference. Anyway, they can finish the season strongly, Milan, because they got 3 home games, Genoa, Cagliari, and Salernitana. If they manage to win those 3, they'll finish second in the table. At home at San Siro, they are still a good team, failed to score only twice. But on the other hand, you got Genoa, who are saved. Gilardino, close to renew his contract, now facing his former club, Milan. I wonder if Gilardino could become at some point the next Milan manager, but maybe not this season. But yeah, easy win against Cagliari, 14th goal of the season for Gudmundsson. But if you have to look for an unsung hero here in the Genoa side, is Morten Fendrup, 23-year-old Danish, first season in Italy. They signed him from Burnby, very cheap, 2 goals, 5 assists. I know some Premier League clubs are probably looking at him. Very good holding midfielder and very, very dynamic. Genoa, very compact team, a team that is solid. They, as I said, never get trashed. 42 points in the table, second best tally since 2015, 2016. Only one defeat in the last 6, and only one defeat in the last 9 games away, when they lost 2-1 to Inter, when Inter was still, of course, fighting to win the title. Recently, good draws against Bologna, Napoli, Juve, Fiorentina in low-scoring games, all under 2.5 goals. A difficult team to score against. I love the Asian handicap plus 120 for Genoa, which is an Asian line, 187, which means if Genoa wins, you win. If Genoa draw, you win. Even if Genoa loses by 1 goal margin, you still win half a stake. I can't see Milan scoring 2 or 3 against Genoa without conceding at least one. By the way, Mike Magnan is injured. Sportiello again in goal.
And with this in mind, Danny, as well, would you fancy as well the double chance for Genoa? Has healthy odds as well there, or
they haven't won a lot of games away from home, so the defeat, the low margin defeat, could be on the card, and Milan got a lot of pressure. I don't particularly fancy the X2 because I think there is the risk they might lose 1-0 or they might lose 2-1, and then the stake is low. But I think with that plus 125, I think you cover yourself quite a lot.
Perfect. So next is the game of Matchday 35, Roma Juventus. We will need to wait and see if there is any hangover from the Europa League semi-finals, and mostly depending on the result. I mean, for Roma, who is facing Bayer Leverkusen. If the question is, will Daniele De Rossi rest the players? I think the answer is very likely yes, because he has done it before. Of course, playing at home, Roma is one of the best teams in Serie A, actually the third best team in the competition. And Juventus away is without a win in the last 6 matches on the road. For Roma, Dani, the last 2 defeats at the Olimpico have been against Inter and Bologna. Does Daniele De Rossi, as great he has been since taking over Mo, need to show a win of this caliber for him, or not really?
A win against a top opposition is very important for everyone's CV, but not just for the CV of De Rossi, who, by the way, is going to continue in the Roma bench for next season, but for the fact that now they got Atalanta breathing down their neck. Atalanta got 1 game in hand. If Atalanta wins that game in hand, which God knows is going to be played against Fiorentina, which there's so many cup competitions, Atalanta are actually ahead of Roma in 5th place. And Roma really can't let the qualification to next year's Champions League go. So, of course, those points are crucial, considering that Roma are going to play Atalanta next week. So it's a tough run of fixture for Roma, of course, in between those Europa League games. Roma have been really good. They've been transformed by De Rossi. It is a team that no longer look inwards, but they try, obviously, to attack and propose interesting football. Against Napoli, though, last weekend, they looked tired. They looked leggy. The fact that they had to play those extra 20 minutes in Udine didn't help, especially in the first half. They have they keeping conceding a few cheap goals at the same time, but they got a great character, they got a great strength, and a never say die attitude. They scored 14 times in the last 15 minutes of games, and they keep going. And the return of Tammy Abraham is a welcome return. He scored his first goal after a year, and is another option. He's another center forward. Not many teams in Italy got Lukaku, Dybala, and Abraham, of these players of this caliber, up front. But of course, a game against Leverkusen, which again we don't know how it's going to end, but you can check our prediction with Alvaro, with you, on the Europa League video, is going to drain resources out of Roma. Juventus, on the other hand, look, they're going to be judged on the points, and they're going to be judged on how they finish the season. They got 1 less point in the table compared to last year. They only scored 3 goals in the last 6 games, only 6 points in the last 6. So they're not finishing the season very strongly. But the performance against Milan was good. And nobody remembers the performance. When you draw 0-0, nobody remembers that. But it was good. It was worth of the 3 points. And it probably would have changed the narrative a little bit around the team and around Allegri, which have done the bare minimum, staying in the top, reaching the Coppa Italia final, which I think against Atalanta, they're not favorite to win as it stands. It's going to be difficult, I think, for Juventus to get a win here. But nonetheless, they do need 3 points, or at least a couple of wins to finish in the top 4 and be secure. Ending behind Bologna, it would be quite a shame, I think, for a team that hasn't played in Europe so far. I think it's going to be a cagey one. Juventus have struggled massively to open the scoring this time in Serie A. They haven't scored in 21 games in the first halves, so I can't see them really scoring here initially. I like the both to score 184. I think this is a low-scoring game, maybe a 1-0 win for each of the side. Don't be surprised if it's another 0-0 this one with so much at stake for Roma.
Yeah, and if you're thinking, I agree as well. I can see a low scoring affair here. And if you're thinking Roma taking the best, even a clean sheet for Roma has odds of 3. But we will see as well what's happening against Leverkusen and how they take it into the game against Juventus. Then the one before the last is Salernitana Atalanta. Being Salernitana, of course, there is no value on Atalanta to win. Which combinations or market will you be looking to find better value?
Very quickly, Atalanta to score in both halves, which doubles your stake, pays 2, so to score in the first and the second half. Not only because of playing Salernitana officially relegated, winless since the 1st of December, succeeding 9 goals in the last 3, but because Atalanta have picked and hit form when it matters. They got a lot of sources of goals, Atalanta. Pasalic has scored at least 5 goals in each of the last 6 seasons. Lukman, 3 goals and 2 assists only in April. Scamacca scored 8 in the last 11. Let's see how he does against Marseille. They will rotate, of course, considering the return semi-final of Europa League, the Coppa Italia final, the game in hand against Fiorentina. But Gasperini has been really clever at rotating games. They lost 7 away games, Atalanta. The goal difference is only +1. So they haven't done extremely well, especially against top opposition. But only 2 of the last 8 games away have been a defeat for Atalanta. Failed to score on the road, Atalanta, only 3 times. They scored 3 times at Anfield. 2 goals twice against Sporting Lisbon away, which they're winning the Portugal League. I think they're going to win here fairly easily. Atalanta to score in both halves. That pays 2.
And because well, like they're going to score easily. Also, Atalanta is a handicap -1.5, odds of 2. If anyone fancy those markets. The last one, Danny, to analyze is on Matchday 35, is Udinese Napoli. I really do not believe that Empoli or Frosinone or Verona, Danny, they have better squad than Udinese. I mean, they could be out of relegation zone with the win, taking into account that Empoli and Frosinone, we mentioned, are playing each other. Napoli showed spirit with Roma, but they couldn't hold the 2-1 lead, and they have won only 1 of the last 7 Serie A matches. What is easier to expect, Udinese to win or goals here?
Goals, because it's hard to trust Napoli. Over 2.5 goals. One problem with Udinese is that they've drawn 17 times so far this season. Only 2 teams in Serie A history, Empoli in 2015, Inter 2004, 2005, with Mancini have drawn so many games at this stage of the season. And the problem with Udinese, not just that they cannot win, is that mentally, emotionally, they seem very fragile. They conceded 18 goals in the last 15 minutes of games. Only Salernitana, with 24 goal conceded in the last quarter an hour, had done worse. And that tells you really how difficult it is for them to get results. After this, they play 3 key games with Udinese: Lecce, Empoli, Frosinone. Wow. So the good news is that it's in their hands, but they need at least 7-8 points to get safe. So basically, they need to get 2 draws and 2 wins. Can they start by winning against Napoli? Only 3 home clean sheets for Udinese this season, always conceding the last 5, and lost the last 3, 2 of them in stoppage time against Roma and against Inter. It will be a massive story if Cannavaro from Napoli, first time he manages in Serie A, manages to win against Napoli. And if you remember, last year Napoli won the Scudetto with a draw at Udine, 1-1. And now they are 9th in the table. How things can change quickly after 1 year. But yeah, Udinese are penultimate in the home table, by the way. Just 1 win, 3-0 against Bologna. Napoli, have they actually improved under Calzona? No. They changed 3 managers. I wouldn't be able to tell you who's been the best one so far. Only 1 win in the last 6. The goal difference in the last 6 games for Napoli, -2. No clean sheets since 28 January, 13 games. There was still Mazzarri in charge. And all their 5 defeats for Napoli have been 2-0. They produce a lot. They cannot score. Napoli are top for shots on target, big chance missed. They really can't score, but against Roma, I think they deserve at least to win. Over 2.190 for me.
That narrative of Cannavaro, the boy from Napoli, now managing Udinese, is a great one as well on this game. I really like it. I didn't think, to be honest, beforehand of that one. Amazing analysis from Dani. As always, everything you need to know about Matchday 35 in Serie A. Before we move on to the safe bet and ACCA with Dani, for all of you guys watching, if you haven't joined yet the monthly tipster competition, we have been mentioning all week. So far, it's very easy, and it's for free. You can just join it on our website. You could win up to €1,000 on a prize pool. We have tweaked the rules for our tipster community, listening to your feedback. All those new rules coming into effect from yesterday, from the 1st of May. Take less than a minute to read them, so please do so and join our monthly tipster competition. Dani, your safe bet.
Verona not to lose against Fiorentina, double chance, 1x.
And what about your ACCA?
3 selections, Bologna has an handicap 0, Sassuolo Inter over 3 goals, Juventus has an handicap 0, total odds 7.26. So these are all Asian lines. Potentially you can get your money back on 1 or 2 selection, but if they get them all together, 7.26, I think is a good return.
Absolutely. Dani, it's been a pleasure as always. Thanks a lot for your tips and insight. And you guys, before you leave, do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. Bye-bye. See you next time.
Bye-bye.